In 12th century England, in a small town named Woolpit, a local farmer spotted a girl roaming the countryside. Feeling concerned, the man followed her deep into the woods, wherein he found that she and a young boy, her brother, had made a home in an abandoned wolf den. The two spoke in an unknown language and wore unfamiliar garments, but most strangely of all, their skin was that of a green hue. The man felt compassion for their plight and adopted them immediately. At home, the two refused food, but before long, they were caught gorging themselves on the stalk of raw beans and potatoes in the cellar. Eventually, the green of their skin faded, and the children lived happily for a time. But that coming winter would prove to be a cruel one. The boy, who had already been of weak stalk, caught tuberculosis and succumbed to consumption before spring was met. Years later, the girl, now a young woman, had learnt English and became a shepherd for her adopted father. "Did you remember to lock the sheep's paddock?" I asked. Agnes made no reply, her eyes fixated on the window which faced the field. Minutes passed with no response. I cleared my throat as I began to compose a question which had been on my mind for the better part of a decade. "Agnes, I've noticed a listlessness in your character of late." She made no motion, not even an attempt to look me in the eye. "It just seems like you've been staring off in the distance, like you're looking at another world, as if you'll be spirited away at a moment's notice." I let out a sigh. It seemed like my words fell on deaf ears, for she remained indifferent. "The sheep need to be shorn next week," she abruptly responded. I found you and your late brother almost 10 years ago. I'm not one to intrude in another's personal life, but do you miss your old life? Do you miss your ma and da? Only after the mention of her former life did she bother to look at me. I could hear a deep nostalgic sadness in her voice.
I do.
Did you want to talk about it? Your homeland, what was it like? I asked.
Well, names of places differ for one, and people aren't quite the same. The land of St. Martin. The country was surrounded by a vast ocean, or maybe we lived by the sea. I'd never seen stars before. The sky was always at twilight. I'm not even sure there was a sun. What really set it apart, what really remains in my mind, is how the light bathed everything in a vibrant green, not unlike the stained glass at church.
I could see tears forming at the edge of her eyes.
It was raining that day too. I was tending to the cattle when it happened. They seemed spooked by something and began to run. Thomas was in a field snapping foxtails with sticks. I grabbed him, but wasn't quick enough. We were felled by the stampede, and as we were, I heard a loud boom, like an explosion, and a flash of white light. We came to, we were strangers in a strange land, frightened and lost. Then you found us.
The sky stayed black, and all that week an unending torrential rain blanketed the farm and surrounding hills. Yet work still needed to be done, and good to my word, we set out to our duties. The sheep were all crowded around a single oak tree, no doubt afraid of the wind chill and rain, and one by one we did the task. It seemed as if the sky had taken on an otherworldly aura. The clouds tumbled and pushed against each other. A pressure was building, unbeknownst to Agnes or I. Then, it happened. The sky let out a thunderous scream like that of a line of men beating drums. It was followed by a flash of light which rended the tree of flame, and even the downpour, as robust as it was, did not weaken the fire's spread. The sheep fled in every direction. In their fleetedness they knocked over Agnes, who at the time had a pair of sheep shears in hand. Their points pierced the sky, and I knew what was next. I could hear the rumbling of the next clap of thunder. With all my might I rushed towards the fallen girl. "Agnes!" I screamed. A bright flash of light filled my vision. I felt my feet lift off the ground. When I awoke, I was lying in a field, staring at an unfamiliar sky. A sky of green twilight.